For countless millions, life was not their own. They were considered property, tools to be used and discarded. Today, we'll pull back the curtain on this brutal reality, exploring how people were enslaved, the roles they were forced into, and the staggering scale of this human tragedy that shaped the ancient world. So, how did someone become a slave in antiquity? The most common path was through war. When one city-state or empire conquered another, the vanquished were often seen as spoils of war. Entire populations could be rounded up, shackled, and marched off to a life of servitude. Imagine being a soldier defending your home one day, and the next, you're a prisoner, your life and freedom forfeited on the battlefield. Piracy and raids were also rampant. Coastal towns and unsuspecting travelers were easy targets for raiders, who saw human beings as a quick and profitable commodity. Another tragic route into slavery was debts. In many ancient societies, if you couldn't pay what you owed, your creditor could seize you or your family members as payment. A bad harvest or a failed business venture could mean losing not just your home, but your very freedom. And of course, many were simply born into it. Third, the child of a slave was automatically a slave, their fate sealed from the moment of birth, inheriting a life of bondage from their parents. This wasn't just a chaotic free-for-all, it was a system codified by law. As early as the 18th century BCE, the famous Code of Hammurabi from Babylon laid out specific laws regarding slaves, detailed punishments for runaway slaves, and even set prices for their purchase, cementing their status as legal property, not as people. Let's look at ancient Egypt, a civilization renowned for its pyramids and pharaohs. While it's a common myth that the Great Pyramids were built entirely by slaves, the reality is that forced labor was a cornerstone of the Egyptian state. Prisoners of war, particularly from Nubia and the Levant, were brought back from military campaigns and put to work in state-owned quarries, mines, and on massive agricultural estates. They toiled under the harsh Egyptian sun, quarrying stone for temples and tombs, or digging irrigation canals to water the fields that fed the empire. While skilled Egyptian laborers also worked on these projects, the lives of these state-owned slaves were filled with grueling, back-breaking work, with little hope of freedom. Moving to ancient Greece, we see a society where slavery was even more widespread and diverse. It's estimated that in some city-states like Athens, slaves may have made up as much as a third of the population. Their roles were incredibly varied. In a wealthy Athenian household, you would find slaves working as cooks, cleaners, tutors for the children, and personal attendants. Skilled slaves worked as artisans, potters, shoemakers, and metalworkers, sometimes even managing workshops for their masters and earning a small allowance. Paradoxically, Athens even used publicly owned slaves as a rudimentary police force. This picture of urban slavery masks a much crueler reality. For those sent to the silver mines at Laurion, life was a death sentence. Chained and forced to work in dark, narrow, and dangerous tunnels. They extracted the silver that funded Athens' navy and its golden age. Their life expectancy was shockingly short. This stark contrast between the life of a domestic slave in Athens and a mine slave reveals the vast spectrum of suffering within the institution. It shows that while some might have had slightly better conditions, freedom was a luxury none of them possessed. Now, let's consider the Roman Empire, where slavery reached an industrial scale. Following centuries of conquest, Rome flooded its territories with millions of slaves. They were the engine that powered the Roman economy. Huge agricultural estates, known as latifundia, were worked by vast gangs of slaves, producing the grain and olive oil that fed the empire's cities. In the cities, they performed every conceivable job, from the most menial tasks to highly skilled professions like doctors and accountants. The grandeur of Remit's aqueducts, its Colosseum, its roads was built and maintained on the backs of slaves. The sheer number of slaves in Rome fundamentally shaped its society, its economy, and even its technology, as the ready supply of cheap human labor discouraged innovation in labor-saving devices. The famous gladiator games, a symbol of Roman entertainment, were fought mostly by slaves, forced to kill each other for the amusement of the crowds. Central to this entire system was the slave market. This was where human beings were transformed into commodities. Captured people from across the known world: Gauls, Germans, Syrians, Africans were brought to bustling markets in major cities like Rome, Delos, or Ephesus. They were stripped, inspected, and paraded on rotating platforms. Potential buyers would check their teeth, their muscles, and their general health, just as one might inspect livestock. An auctioneer would call out their origin, age, and any special skills they might possess. A strong young man fit for farm work would fetch a certain price. A skilled musician or an educated Greek scribe would command a much higher one. A child or an elderly person would be sold for less. This dehumanizing process was the transactional heart of slavery, a place where families were torn apart forever and a person's entire future was sold to the highest bidder. It was a brutal, efficient machine of human trafficking. In reflecting on slavery in the ancient world, it's crucial to understand its profound and lasting impact. It was a system of unimaginable cruelty that underpinned the economies, politics, and social structures of these great civilizations. While we marvel at their art, philosophy, and architecture, we must also remember the immense human suffering that made it all possible. This system of bondage denied millions their basic humanity, treating them as property to be bought, sold, and exploited. It's a sobering reminder that the foundations of our shared history are complex and often deeply troubling. Understanding this dark chapter is not about judging the past by today's standards, but about acknowledging the complete story of humanity, in all its triumph and its tragedy. Thank you for watching, and if you found this exploration of history valuable, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more.